What happens when America's most powerful military bases come under direct attack? That is the dramatic question raised by a new report from Iran's state broadcaster, Press TV, which claims that Iran's retaliatory missile and drone strikes during the 2026 conflict exposed major vulnerabilities across the U.S. military network in the Persian Gulf. From the headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet to key air bases and billion-dollar radar systems, the report claims that what it calls Operation True Promise 4 struck some of Washington's most strategic assets. It is a sweeping account, and from the outset, it is important to be clear about where it comes from. The report walks through the bases one by one. It begins with Camp Buehring in the northwestern Kuwaiti desert near the Iraqi border, described as the U.S. Army's principal ground force staging base in Kuwait. According to Press TV, satellite images showed extensive damage across support buildings, warehouses, troop facilities, and logistics infrastructure. The report points in particular to what it describes as a heavily burned electrical substation with scorched equipment, destroyed transformer banks, and substantial debris. Again, this is the report's reading of the imagery, not an independently confirmed assessment, and satellite photographs can be read very differently depending on who is interpreting them. Next is al-Salem Air Base, around 60 kilometers west of Kuwait City, one of the most strategically important American-operated air facilities in the country, and a key hub for U.S. Central Command. The Press TV report claims Iranian strikes caused massive damage to hangars, support buildings, and critical operational infrastructure, with further impacts said to affect aircraft shelters, radar installations, and communications facilities. If true, that would be a serious blow to American air operations in the Gulf. But the scale of the damage described rests, once more, on Iran's own account, and the report's own dating of the strikes is inconsistent, which is one more reason to treat the specifics with care. Then comes the most dramatic claim of all. According to the report, the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet came under direct attack, struck by multiple Iranian ballistic missiles and kamikaze drones. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced that a Fifth Fleet service center had been precisely targeted. The Fifth Fleet is one of the most important U.S. naval commands in the world, and any confirmed strike against it would be enormously significant. That is exactly why this particular claim demands the most caution and the clearest sourcing. Independent imagery confirms major damage at naval support activity Bahrain, including command and communications facilities, but that is still very different from proving the Fifth Fleet itself was disabled. The report does not stop at Kuwait. It claims strikes on Isa Air Base in southern Bahrain, said to be concentrated on hangars and maintenance compounds rather than spread across the whole base. And it describes an attack on Al Dhafra Air Base near Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, which it says destroyed the Air Warfare Center, the Satellite Communications Center, and early warning and fire control radars, in what it called a strike that decapitated the base's command and control. In each case, the report stresses targeted damage rather than total destruction. Perhaps the most specific claim involves a single piece of hardware. The report says an Iranian strike severely damaged the AN/FPS-132 early warning radar near Dahal in Qatar, a UHF phased array system costing $1.1 billion, a strategic asset linked to the wider American defense network and designed to track ballistic missiles at extreme range. If accurate, the loss of such a system would be a meaningful setback. The damage there has since been corroborated by independent satellite analysis, although the precise condition of the radar and the full operational impact remain disputed. And this is the crucial other side. While Iran describes destroyed bases and shattered radars, the picture from Washington and its Gulf partners has been very different. U.S. and Gulf officials reported limited impact from the latest exchange, but independent investigations of the broader campaign have documented substantial damage at numerous American facilities. In other words, the two sides do not just disagree on the details, they describe almost entirely different outcomes. One side presents a network in ruins, the other a string of intercepted attacks. Independent evidence now confirms that substantial damage occurred, but the operational consequences, and many of Tehran's claims of total destruction, remain contested, and viewers should be wary of any account, from either capital, that sounds too clean. What is not in dispute is that strikes took place, and that Iran is furious. Iran's foreign ministry condemned what it called savage and illegal American airstrikes on monitoring and surveillance facilities along its southern coast. In an official statement, Tehran said the attacks were a clear breach of international law, violating Article 2 of the United Nations Charter and the terms of the June 18th Memorandum of Understanding that had ended the recent war. It accused Washington of systematically disregarding its own commitments. Iran framed its response as self-defense. Citing Article 51 of the UN Charter, the Foreign Ministry stressed Iran's determination to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity against what it called U.S. military aggression. The IRGC went further, warning that any violation of the ceasefire breaches the first clause of the Islamabad Agreement and would lead to a complete halt of all related processes. In Tehran's words, the ceasefire is over. The silence has been shattered, and the region is once again on the edge of war. As for what triggered this round, Washington again points to a ship. U.S. Central Command says the latest American strikes were ordered by President Trump after Iran allegedly targeted the Panama-flagged oil tanker Kiku with a one-way attack drone near the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM says its warplanes hit Iranian surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites, drone storage facilities, and mine layer capabilities. It was, by Washington's account, a response to an Iranian attack on commercial shipping, the same pattern that has driven this crisis from the start. What set off this second round? According to the United States, it began with another ship. U.S. Central Command says the latest strikes were ordered by President Trump after Iranian forces allegedly targeted the Panama-flagged oil tanker Kiku with a one-way attack drone near the Strait of Hormuz, the waterway through which nearly a fifth of the world's oil passes. As with the earlier clashes, a single attack on a single vessel became the spark for a far larger military exchange. It is a pattern that is now repeated several times: a reported strike on a ship, followed by American retaliation, followed in turn by an Iranian response, each round leaving the region a little closer to open war. The American response, by Washington's account, was broad. U.S. Central Command said the latest operation targeted Iranian surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites, drone storage facilities, and mine layer capabilities. It was, by any measure, a significant operation, and another in a growing series of U.S. strikes that Washington has linked to Iranian attacks on commercial shipping. President Trump made his stance unmistakable. In a fiery message on Truth Social, he declared that U.S. aircraft had struck Iranian missile and drone facilities for violating the ceasefire, and warned that if Tehran continued, Washington could be forced to, in his words, militarily complete the job. He went further still, suggesting that the Islamic Republic itself could cease to exist. Asked by reporters whether the United States would respond, he offered only his now familiar three words: "You'll find out."
On Iran, Mr. President, you said that Iran violated the ceasefire.
Yeah, they did.
Will they face any consequences?
Well, you'll find out.
Do you consider the ceasefire to still be in place?
I don't like the fact that they took a shot yesterday, actually four, we knocked down three, at a ship. Not an Allied ship, but a ship, a very expensive ship. And it was fine, but it took a little beating. They shouldn't be doing that, so you'll find out.
Will the U.S.
You'll find out
will
exactly.
the U.S. respond? What is your message to
Will
Iran?
I respond? You're going to find out.
Sir, why do you think they did that if the talks, you've said repeatedly they're going well? What do you think the motivation is for attacking the ship?
They're a little bit different. That's why I think of it, 47 years, no president did what we're doing. So you just asked a question, you'll find out.
Iran flatly rejected the American version of events. Ibrahim Azizi, chairman of Iran's Parliamentary National Security Commission, insisted that Iran's actions were fully within its rights and that the Strait of Hormuz remains under Iranian authority. He warned the Trump administration not to mistake Iranian control of the waterway for escalation, describing the recent moves not as a breach of the ceasefire, but as what he called ceasefire management. It is a striking phrase, and one that sits worlds apart from how Washington sees the same events. Where the United States sees a clear violation of the ceasefire, Iran sees itself simply enforcing terms it believes the agreement already grants it. Both cannot be right, and that contradiction is precisely what makes this moment so combustible.